Well, a friend of mine, she has children, and her children, like their first aid kit is essentially like lavender. Like when in doubt, the kids throw lavender on it. I mean, it's just amazing uh, how uh, how useful, how flexible, and how powerful they are. Welcome, everyone, to episode 32, Essential Oils. Whether you are someone who's been on the essential oil path for many years,
or a brand newbie like me who maybe just has a jar of vinegar with some citrus rinds tossed into it.
Essential oils can be an incredibly potent and incredibly powerful part of your life. Hopefully you'll get a little bit of information that'll just kind of pique your curiosity so that you can pursue some of this on your own.
And maybe even enrich your magical practice or your home cleaning practice. Who knows?
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
races,
and backgrounds.
With a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true, our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome everyone into our circle. We're so excited to have you here for episode 32 for essential oils. Before we spend some time talking about essential oils and then close with a poem, before that, I'd love to take a moment to check in and just see how everything is going outside of the witchy world. Mm-hmm. So first off, Kimberlyn, how are you doing? What's going on for you?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you. And my check-in has to do with that answer, which is I'm doing well. One of the things that I have been I've done some really intense personal development over the summer, which I then let slide when school started. It's like I feel like I'm kind of I've backslid. But one of the things that I've recognized about myself through intense journaling over the past 3 or 4 years, and then the work that I did this summer, was that I tend to be I think by nature I'm a happy-go-lucky person, et cetera, et cetera. But I find that I gloss over negative things in my life just so I could stay upbeat and positive, or if I will acknowledge it and then just move on, right? And we've kind of talked around this an episode or two. And one of the things that I've tried to embrace is acknowledging the things that are frustrating or that I get angry about, and then allow myself to sit in it and then move on, as opposed to just kind of glossing over that. And then for me, anger manifests as like physical pain in joints and things like that. And so accepting that has just made me healthier. And so I say all of that because I found myself actually embracing that when I came back from Taos, and people would say, "So how was Taos?" And I'd say, "Oh, it was good." And there was some frustration. And because normally I would just say, "It was wonderful, I skied, blah, 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 blah." But I found myself really trying to be, not monopolize the conversation, but just kind of saying, "Oh, this was wonderful. And then this was a little frustrating, and that was a little frustrating," and that sort of thing. And I remember at the time allowing myself to say, "Kimberlyn, this is frustrating. Just sit in this for a moment." And so it's not like the most exciting thing to happen to me, but in terms of my own personal growth, I think that was huge.
I think that does sound really big.
Yeah. So I feel we've talked about authenticity in the past, and I feel like this is allowing my authenticity to shine, and people not running in the opposite direction saying, "Oh my God, she's a horrible person." So, eventually I will be, because I'm going to let it all hang out. But right now it's nice to know that my friends still love me, even if I am not happy all the time. Check.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about with you? What's going on with you?
All right. So you're bringing the fire with Sharon. I'm going to talk about bringing the fire in a pit.
Not smooth transition. I love that. Nice connection.
So one of our sisters brought a gas-powered fire pit to Ritual a couple of weeks ago, and my sister and I fell in love with it. We were like, holy moly, this is amazing. So I have a gas-powered fireplace, and I have found that I use it so often because of its convenience. I just turn the knob, I light it, and boom, instant.
Bam. Yes.
The instant glory of the fire. And I also have a wood burning fire pit in my backyard, which I actually used 2 days ago because side note, I save everything from Ritual that I don't want to throw away, and then I burn it at the end of the year. So I had my fire, and it's going in the backyard, and I'm like burning stuff. Oh, and I was listening to Kellyanna, Stonehenge.
Yes. Yes.
And also on my playlist was Dance in the Graveyards. Just a
it's like a podcast moment for you,
right? It's like a witchy wit playlist. Now that I think about it, I guess any playlist that you and I make is a witchy wit playlist. But
yes, so, yeah.
But my sister and I love the gas one so much because you don't have to burn. It's not consuming things that I have to like throw in. Like it's just like an on off. So we actually bought one. Yeah. So I'm so excited. And so I feel a couple ways about it. One, I really like it because of its convenience. And so it's going to get me outside and around the fire pit more. Pro. Mm-hmm. Con. I like the fire and the wood and like that practice. And because I've spent a lot of time with you around a fire, I really enjoy tending the fire while people talk.
Remember.
So I really enjoy like being in like a squat position next to the fire, like my knees spread outside of my hips, poking at it and like, and so I'm listening to what people are saying, but my body is engaged. So it's like a fidget. Maybe it was nature's first fidget. So I have there are parts of me, I think there are witchy parts of me that are like, no, like OG fire versus, but I'm excited to have it. Basically anything that gets more fire in my life, I'm about. So that's where I'm at.
That is so cool. Well, first of all, so, I don't think that having the gas fire is going to mean that you're not going to do the other fires. Because I do remember, I have like a picture of you kind of like the old woman by the fire, and you just sitting throwing a little twig and, you just kind of rock and hold it. So I suspect that it just gives you more flexibility, and you can like, bam, I got a fire, or, okay, now we're going to do the slow, the OG. So how cool. Well, I'm going to have to come over and experience this fire.
I always love sitting around fires with you.
Yes. You know what? We should do a podcast from the fire.
We should do a podcast sitting by the fire, and then you can hear the fire.
Yes. Okay.
Oh my gosh. It's like a fireside chat, but instead of with the president, it's with two witches.
Which is infinitely better, no matter who the president is.
I agree.
I loved it. Okay, I'm going to add it to our list.
Add it to our list.
Fabulous.
Well, since we're adding to the list already, maybe we should stick to the one we were planning on talking about, which is essential oils.
Yes, indeed. Which I am so super stoked about.
I love it.
I don't normally do that, so I'm like proud of myself. Okay, yeah. So let me just start by just so our episode is essential oils, in case you missed that. In case our listeners missed that. And I think what's the most important thing is that I have always I've always had this kind of witchy side to myself, even before I acknowledged I had this witchy side to myself. And so I loved the idea of like, what's the most natural things we can do to take care of my body. So I'd been always into teas and, taking herbs and greens and bark and whatnot, and seeds and making teas and tinctures, but not consistently. And sometimes I didn't do it well. And so, you looked at something and you thought you would look at it and you think, am I going to put this in my mouth? No, I don't think so. But I always loved that idea of using natural ingredients and using, I didn't think about it at the time, but using the energy of plants and seeds, et cetera, et cetera. And so, but then I, discovered essential oils and started using them. And I just love them so much. And I'm so excited that we're getting a chance to talk about them.
I love it too. And I also love that, very honestly, I am coming at this from a place of like, almost like the opposite of you, in that I'm like, I really enjoy going over to your house and it always smells super great. And then, whenever stuff goes down, I get to call you and be like, hey, this is going down. What should I do? And then you're like, bam, 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 bam. So for any of our listeners who are not in, or who are skeptical, or just have no clue, like, I feel like they can kind of hop in the Leilani boat and we'll sail together down this essential oil river of knowledge.
I love that. The river of knowledge. Okay. Alrighty. So let me just do a real brief down and dirty, and then we can just kind of go from there. So for those of you who may not know, and a lot of people talk about essential oils and they don't really actually know what they are. They just know they get this bottle and it either makes them feel good or it smells good or whatever. And so basically essential oils are concentrated extracts from the most powerful parts of plants, like the bark, shrubs, the leaves, the flowers, roots, fruit, the skins of the fruits, things like that, and essentially are sorry.
We're so good today. We are on.
We're hot. Basically they're distilled. That means steam is usually shot through the material, or they're cold pressed to extract the essence, the essential oil. And it's not really an oil. It's more of it's, as I said, it's an extract that comes out of it. And so the thing about it, the beauty of this is that you're using the most powerful part of the plant, the part of the plant that would nourish itself or heal itself, or use it for photosynthesis. And we're taking those powers, those elements, and we're using them to support our own bodies. Does that make sense?
That does. I didn't know. I think I'm going to be saying this phrase a lot. I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't. They just know they bottle, but you go to the store and you buy a bottle of lavender oil, whatever. But that's essentially what. So,
yeah.
Okay, we I think we're going to need to take a shot.
Right.
Every time I say essentially,
a kombucha shot.
A kombucha shot. There we go. Bam. So the basic idea is finding these things that we know about. But before, people would chew willow bark, right? When they had tooth pain or something, they would chew willow bark, or they would, you'd make a tea, or you make a salve or something. I mean, and we still do that, of these ingredients. Whereas with an essential oil, it's extracted, and then you can do with it whatever you want. You can put it in a tea, you can put it in an oil and rub it on your, achy joints or whatever.
So you were talking about like how they extract it. I've noticed that. So because I'm oftentimes perceived, mostly correctly, as people perceive me as many things, but a lot of times the entry point is like some sort of tree hugger hippie, depending on depending on my level of intimacy with people, like they kind of I'm assuming people categorize me different ways. Anyways, that yields oftentimes gifts of things that people think I might like. And I get oils a lot from people because I think they're, depending on how much they know me, it's like a gift that people can give me. And I appreciate it. So one thing I've noticed is, because I do run a diffuser frequently in my house. When I put different brands of oils in my diffuser, some of them leave my diffuser wrecked. This like yellowish brownish crud like all over it. And then whenever I use other brands, specifically the one like that you use a lot, there's nothing left in my diffuser. It looks clean. Wait, what's going on? What is that? Does that matter? If everyone could only see the look on your face right now.
Okay. And this is not going to, so yeah, you mentioned that I use a certain type. I'm not going to mention the name. People can email me if they want to know. But I just want to give some information so you know why. I think that'll make a big difference. So first of all, to make a good essential oil, it's an expensive process because in most cases, the majority of cases, you want organic material, and that means free of pesticides or chemical fertilizers. Because think about it. Let's say you eat an apple that has pesticides on it, right? You just, you rinse it off and you get most of it off, but maybe not all of it because it seeps into the skin. But it's one apple and you eat it and you throw away the core or whatever you do, you replant it or something, right? So you just had one apple with a little bit of pesticide. Your body, it might put a little bit of a strain on your system, but your body eventually processes it and you pee it out or poop it out or whatever, right? But an essential oil takes all of the apples from that tree and extracts everything from those apples, right? And then all of that powerful stuff goes into one bottle. So that means not only is the good stuff from the apple essentialized, right, extracted, but you also get all of those pesticides that are now concentrated in one little bottle, right? So that's one aspect of what makes the type that I use really, really good, is that it's organic. So your body is not struggling with processing undesirable chemicals. Okay. In some cases, toxic chemicals. Another is that they use a process where basically from the time the seed is chosen, not even planted, chosen, to the time the stuff is bottled, it's all in-house. And the guy who founded the company was really, really, really obsessed with the purity of the process and the purity of the product. So because of that, in many cases, the harvest is most of these are hand harvested or minimally machine processed. And obviously as I said, there's no pesticides and no artificial fertilizers. And the product is tested from the time the leaves are tested before they're even extracted. The extract is tested. It's triple checked. And the beauty of my company is that, say it's just a crappy harvest, the soil is just either depleted and that's not usually the case, but there was a whole lot of, it wasn't a lot of rain that season. There's a whole lot of weather events, and it's not as potent as it would be. Our company will now sell it. It sells it to a broker. It does not bottle and label it under our company. And so our things tend to go out of stock a lot, because rather than send on a substandard product, it'll just allow the product to go out of stock. So I think that's part of it, is that it's just super, super, I don't want to use the word clean, but it's super, super essentialized. I mean, when you look at the bottle, if it says lemon, that's all that's in it. A lot of these other companies, particularly those who are buying from brokers that get our substandard stuff, what they'll do is they'll use chemicals to stretch the oil, because all you have to say is that this, for labeling purposes, is that it's the lemon oil. You don't have to put in the things that are stretchers or fillers because it's not a food product. So they don't have to label it. Yeah. So you don't know what you're getting in most of these. And so that's one of the reasons probably that it's not diffusing as cleanly. Okay. But, and so that, thank you for asking, because that, I'm, like I said, people, you don't have to get stuff from my company, but I want you to be cognizant of this. The fact that you see that in your diffuser, it's just exacerbated in your body. When you breathe it in, when you inhale an essential oil, I think they figured out that it's within 36 seconds, it's gotten to the blood, it goes through the blood brain barrier. So you can use it for mental stuff, for emotional stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So it really gets into your body quickly. And so you want the best type you can because it's going into your body. So that was a long answer. I'm sorry. I just get so excited about this, but thank you so much for asking, because I think that that's so important for people to recognize, is that when you get something and it's on sale for $10.
Yeah. For like this, like, giant bottle.
Yes. I won't mention any names, but anyway. Yeah. So speaking of which, so I want to tell you this because this is an important part of this. So I mentioned that it's kind of expensive to make. When you I think the most common essential oil that most people know about is lavender. And when they harvest lavender, it takes 220 pounds of lavender flowers to provide 7 pounds of oil. Yeah.
That's a lot of essence. That's very little essence for a lot of
that. Yeah. And that's why it's so potent, because it's concentrating all of that sun and soil and love, et cetera, into that, to these little bottles. Right. So lavender is kind of one of the least expensive, powerful, potent oils. But for another one that's used, rose blossoms are really useful for meditation, for emotional well-being and balance. And it's also super expensive. I don't even own a bottle of rose. I keep saying one of these days I'm going to get it, but it's 60,000 rose blossoms. 60,000 rose blossoms. Picture that. Provide 1 ounce of rose oil. So 60,000. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how much it is. I'll tell you later when we go offline. But yeah, I'm hoping that a dear friend will get it for me for my birthday. It hasn't happened so far. So so when you're paying for oils, and you're thinking, oh, okay, I'm just going to get the cheapest I can. If you're just going for smell, that might be okay. But just recognize that whatever else is in that's making it so cheap is still going into your body. Mm-hmm. So that's just an important part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious too, like from a witchy standpoint, I get this thought process running, and I wonder, like, is it cart before the horse or horse before the cart? But this idea of so you're talking about like how we are, like, the reason why it's called essential oils is like, it's the essence, right? And so you were talking about the correspondence of rose being about some heart stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, like magically, we're essentializing, I don't know, the rose down, and then so then that would mean, like, I would think that a lot of the magical correspondence for it is still in there, and that it could then be used for magical purposes. And then, while I am an Enneagram 2, I have a really strong three wings. So I really like being efficient. Mm-hmm. So then I'm thinking, then instead of like carrying a rose around with me, I'm holding this whole flower, like wham, it's like right there. I have like this like bottle of essential oil. So I can access that energy maybe in a way that might be more accessible, or because I'm a teacher, more, more functional in a classroom setting.
Yes.
Where I can't have like a full blown altar set up,
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. So you mentioned rose, and that's one of those where we have this whole mythology around roses, right? In our culture.
We do. And I'm wondering, like, if that's like, is it because of its magical powers that we've been so attracted to it? Or did we construct that because of, did we construct that and then pull in them? I don't know.
I think it's probably circular, but I think a part of it is, like at a prehistoric person smelled rose and then saw like the person next to him was thinking, they're kind of hot. And, so I think what it is, rose opens you up. It opens you up generally spiritually and emotionally. And so if you're sniffing rose and you're with someone, and you're both sniffing rose, then that's going to probably help, like, cement the relationship or open you up to love, to possibility, et cetera, et cetera. And so the associations have just continued to develop, right? And then when we as a culture agree to something, it is. Right. I mean, so that gives, like, I think it's probably circular, but I suspect that, as we relied more on instinct, that probably those connections just kind of jumped in there. And then as we became more articulate as a race, as a species, that we began to give elements or aspects to it, to assign aspects to it that we might not have necessarily thought about when we first started making those associations. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Yeah. So speaking of rose, one of the things that I didn't, when I first fell into essential oils, a long time ago, I just really liked the smell. And I remember reading in a book something about, lavender is supposed to be really good for your health or whatever. And so I got some, crappy oil at the supermarket or whatever. But when I found the product that I use now about 7 years ago, I did it because I was having a lot of problems with my joints. And so I was really looking at the physical, how it supports your physical well-being. And I was getting a lot of things like we've talked about my sinuses and my joints. And so I was getting those types of oil. It was only about 3 or 4 years ago that the rest of it kind of dawned on me, like, I do all this emotional, spiritual work. Why am I not using the oils? And when I started doing that, that's, I think, when a lot of breakthroughs started to happen. I started using it for frankincense. So everyone has heard of frankincense, gold, and myrrh, right? Mm-hmm. But frankincense and myrrh are incredibly powerful, potent essential oils. Frankincense is kind of like the Swiss Army knife of essential oils. It's been that way for millennia. You use it for, people use it to reduce active growth elements in their bodies. I'll just put it that way. But physical ailments, skin, you put a couple of drops of that in your moisturizer, your facial moisturizer, your skin just starts to glow. But it's also incredible for like meditation. And if you just want to sit and really like journaling, it's in fact, let me show you. Well, people at home can't see this, but and neither can you, because I don't know exactly where it is. But I made myself I thought I had it nearby. I made myself a roller bottle with all the spiritual oils: frankincense, Roman chamomile, myrrh, vetiver, and in the bottle. And I'm going to find it so I can show it to you. In the bottle are amethyst chips. So the oils and the crystals can be used. And I would just put it on my third eye or whatever when I'm going to meditate or journal. And it's incredibly powerful. I'm just babbling. I know I need to just stop for a little bit, but it's amazing. And we actually need to do an episode on crystals, because I know you know a lot about those too. But it really, when you use the essential oils with something else that's incredibly potent, man, it just rocks.
I know one time we were recording and I was I was playing with your roller bottle and I saw the crystals in there. First of all, it's just lovely. I was just tipping it upside down and back and forth and watching the crystals. It's just pretty, which is so nice. But I asked you about it and I was like, well, what does the crystals do to the essential oil? And you explained it to me like it was like a magnifying glass, like it just like focused it and intensified it. And that was really accessible for me to understand.
Yeah. I mean, they're so, a lot of people use them for different things. A friend of mine, she has children, and her children, like their first aid kit is essentially like lavender. Like when in doubt, the kids throw lavender on it. I mean, it's just amazing how useful, how flexible, and how powerful they are. Oh, so one of the things that I wanted to mention is I said that, that how I like to use natural ingredients. So even before I had discovered essential oils, I would clean using vinegar and, to kind of keep some of the toxicity down in my household. And any of the listeners to the podcast, if you really want an eye opener, take any of your products that are under your kitchen sink and then just go online and you can do a Google search for the actual ingredient, like the poison control fact sheet on it, just to see what's in your product. It's just amazing. And this is any product. This is anything in your kitchen and pretty much everything in your bathroom. Anyway, I said all of that to say that, once I'm really committed to using my essential oils throughout the house. So, we talked about I'll mention Thieves because it's not just proprietary. Other companies use that term too. But basically, I wash my clothes in it. I wash my dishes in it. I brush my teeth in it. I have a mouthwash. So it not only does what a mouthwash does or your deodorant does, but it's also supporting your immune system. And so it's kind of, it cleans, but it also is not only not a toxic weight on your body, but it actually helps your body to get better. So it's just amazing.
That is one of my favorite ones though. And whenever, so as a teacher, whenever we went back into the classroom after being out of the classroom for so long, I had read that humidity in the air keeps like the virus COVID can't spread as well when there's high humidity in the air. So I was like, all diffusers coming with me to school, and I'm like plugging the diffusers in all around my classroom. And then I diffused Thieves in my classroom. Because not only was I making the humidity higher, but I also was like more of that energy.
It supports the immune system. It's actually, so can I tell you the Legend of Thieves?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who have not heard this now, and as I said, the company that I use that's a kind of like a term that they use for an actual line of cleaning products, et cetera, et cetera. But if you go on the internet, there's tons of different recipes where you can make your own Thieves blend or whatever. Anyway, so but here's the legend that during the plague, 14th century, 1300s, there were a number of people who, so basically, people were dying of the plague, and as soon as they died, or sometimes before they died, the family would throw the bodies out in the street, and then they would take the bodies off and put them in a group grave and I don't know, throw lime saltpeter or something on them and then cover them up. Anyway, but because they would throw them out of the system and they didn't want to hold on to anything that had been on their bodies because they felt that they were super, super contagious, these bodies would be thrown out with jewelry on and maybe stuff in their pockets. And so there were a number of thieves who would go and strip the bodies, and they never got sick. And it was because they would make a mask to cover up their face. And in the mask, they put these herbs like rosemary, eucalyptus leaves, I'm trying to remember some other things, cloves, and they would tie that over their faces. So as they breathed in and out, it formed not only the barrier, but it also supported their immune system and helped and formed like an infectious barrier to the disease, so that it would, so they never came down with it. And I think, as the legend goes, that they were eventually caught, and the judge or the king or whatever said that they could have a lesser sentence. I don't know what that was, if they would share the recipe. And so that's the genesis of the Legend of Thieves, but it's also the basis for so many of these different recipes that I have to say work, people. So if you have immune issues, you need to get some, and you don't have to get it from my company, but figure out how to make it and diffuse it, drink it, bathe in it, start really taking care of your bodies.
I know our circle has made it before with a vinegar base, and like people have brought in herbs, and I have some sitting on my counter. It's like in a big mason jar, and then all the herbs, and like there's citrus fruits in there.
Yep.
And then I just let it sit, and then I've over the months watch it slowly turn from like a clear vinegar to like a browny orange.
Yes.
And then I strain it, and then I put it in a spray bottle.
Oh, it's wonderful. Like for your cutting boards, all of the places where people would use like some stuff that you need to wash your hands after you use it or wear gloves. Instead of doing that, you can use this, and it's actually good for it to seep into your skin, right? So good for you. I'm so impressed. Speaking of jars, can I just tell you, I don't know, you might have seen this. There's this, it's a meme. I think you can see it on Pinterest. It's like the rules of witchcraft. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so it's like the 10 rules of witchcraft. And rule number 1 is there are no rules. And rule number 2 is see rule number 1. And rules number 3 through 10 are more mason jars.
Right. I know, it's so true. I did this for winter solstice. I did a ritual, and I asked the women to bring a jar, and like someone not in our circle was like, well, will they have jars? Will they have a jar to bring? And I was like, oh, honey.
My garage is, because I don't want to throw them out because they're all different sizes, and you never know you're going to need that.
They're good jars. They're good jars. And I hate clutter. I like sometimes to a problem level. I dislike clutter, and so I will get rid of a lot of things, maybe even things that I need, just for the sake of like, I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to have it around. Like I'm the type of person that has a shelf with like one thing on the center of the shelf.
I'm going to have to hire you. I know.
And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. I'm saying it's probably it's the opposite side of the person who has 17 things on a shelf. It's I'm not, so it can be a problem, but that's how I am. But man, do I not have an entire cabinet? You open it up and it's just random jars.
And, in fact, very soon after we really started to get to know each other, I can't remember what I was doing at the time. Like I go through these phases where I'm drinking like, juice or whatever. And you said, oh, I have some, you gave me like those 16-ounce juice jars. Do you remember giving me that?
I do.
Like, and you had like, they were all in the box and everything. It was
yes.
So
Yeah. I had a friend who did a juicing business and had extra ones. And I was like, I'll take your extra jars. Of course I need 72 jars. Give me those.
Come on. You were wonderful. It was wonderful. I loved it. Thank you so much. I still have them, in fact.
Well, okay. So bringing it back, because we do love jars, but bringing it back to this, like that's as somebody, so I view you as like an essential oil expert. I know you get all bashful and you're like, but like, that's how I view, that's the role you play in my life. One of the many roles you play in my life. But as someone who this is not like my thing where I put all of my energy or I focus a lot of my energy. I think that like what you were talking about, like that thieves jar to vinegar jar, like that is an accessible way to kind of like start venturing into that. Or like you mentioned lavender, so maybe I'm not going to become like an oil enthusiast, but like that is an easy way for me to kind of dip my toe in and see, like, is this something that I like? Is this something that I want to enrich my life or magical practice with, or not, or is it just something that I might enjoy using a roller ball of lavender, And like, for me, thieves is my entryway. And that's like what I really enjoy. It also is kind of where it ends for me most of the time, unless I call you up and I'm like, oh my gosh, help me out. But like thieves is like a really enjoyable thing that I have on my stove. I diffuse it, especially once COVID hit. So maybe if our listeners are overwhelmed or don't know where to start, like that might be a way for them to enter in. Or do you have any other suggestions on like how to onboard maybe a little bit?
Yeah. So here's the thing, like you said, everyone has their level of investment in it. As you know, from sitting in my room and looking at my shelves, I have a heavy investment in it. And it
looks like an altar to essential oils, and I love it. It's just, and they're on risers, like a choir.
Yes. Alphabetically organized, of course, you know that, right?
I did notice that, and I appreciated that. And I was like, I see this and I honor this.
Thank you. I feel so seen. But for some people like you said, I like thieves. I like the versatility. I like to be able to use it. And that's pretty much, like if like sinuses, something comes up, you want a little bit more of something else, but that's your jam, right? And so I would suggest for someone who they're not even sure that this might be something that might be a part of their lives is, with my company, you can like do parties and all that kind of stuff, or just go to a store and just smell some things. One of the things we have learned is that some people use scentings as diagnostic tools. So often your body will tell you what you need by your reaction. So if you breathe in something and it's like, your body's telling you you need it. But conversely, if you smell something and it's like, ew, that's when they say, investigate that a little bit more. Like that's when you should look up what this is good for, because often it's something that you might be denying in yourself or not aware of. So I would just say, go and find a scent that you like. I'm going to tell you, like the royal trinity of essential oils, after you drop frankincense out, because it's just that's a higher price level, lemon, lavender, and peppermint, because between those three, if you need to go up, it helps you go up. If you need to relax, it helps you relax. They're balancing. You can use them for physical stuff. You can use them for emotional, spiritual, mental stuff. Between those three, you got it going on. Okay. So, and I would recommend you get it from a really valid company so that you get the purest quality. But I think that any of those three are a good place to start. And then you can go from there if you decide, okay, I really like this. I want to explore a little bit more. There's you can go online. There's tons of information. Call me, email me. I can suggest stuff for you as well. But I would just figure out which ones you like to smell and start with that.
I just remembered one. So the Thieves blend, oil and the stuff on my stove. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that I have done with essential oils is bug spray.
Ah, yes.
Because one time I sprayed off on myself and it melted my watch.
Yes, indeed.
I was wearing a plastic watch and it melted my watch, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm spraying that on my body. Mm-hmm.
I'm spraying this on my body and it melted my watch. Mm-hmm. So unless I'm going into like battle with the mosquitoes, which there are certain places where I feel like it is.
Which camp?
Yes. I like to make like a blend with like certain oils that are good for bugs. One of which I didn't look this up before the ritual. So before our taping.
Podcast is a ritual for me, my love.
Yay. That's so funny that like my brain triggered. I think when I see you, I get into ritual mindset. Okay. So I think I put eucalyptus, citronella.
Yeah, the best ones.
And then I know that there's another one, but I'm forgetting. But
Maybe cedarwood or lemongrass.
The lemongrass. That's it.
Lemongrass.
Cedarwood.
Cedarwood. Cedarwood, girl. And the thing about that blend, if you citronella, cedarwood, lemongrass, and eucalyptus, it's actually good for your skin too. I mean, it doesn't melt your watch. Oh, no, I have to say, let me take that back. Now, one of the things that you should learn about essential oils that you should not put them in plastic because they eat toxins. Most of them eat toxins. So plastics are toxins. And you do have to be careful with that because they will start like working their way through plastic. So just be aware of that. But yeah, that stuff is so good for your skin. So you're not only fighting off little critters, but you're also nourishing yourself.
And I love seeing you, like sometimes we'll be sitting around a fire and I'll see you like rubbing this oil onto your skin and then you smell so good.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it is that it's kind of a byproduct of the actual utilitarian purpose, but it's also really wonderful. There's a friend of mine, her son, she was saying that they were somewhere like a bath beyond or whatever. And he said, this smells like Miss Kim. Yeah. So, and I, after a while, I don't smell it, until, when I put it on fresh, I smell it, but after a while it kind of goes away. I get used to it. So, but it's nice because people will say, oh yeah. And cats, when I go to some people's houses, it's like their cats lose their shit. They literally either on my purse or on me, they just come and then they just rub themselves constantly. They have to put the animal out because it drives them nuts. So cats really love essential oils. So yeah.
Do you feel like you have a magical practice with essential oils?
Girl, well, like you said, my altar. So first off, every day, instead of a lotion, I use like a carrier oil that's like an olive oil or coconut oil, something that helps to spread the oil. So you're not just putting the concentrated oil on. So every morning I put that on. So my day starts when I choose which one I'm going to use. And sometimes it's okay. I need to work on I need to work on this or that or the other, and I might choose that. But sometimes I just let my hand or my energy go out, and then that's how I choose it. So I start my day with the oils. And then, as I said, when I'm journaling or doing some meditation, I will usually apply an oil to my temples or my third eye, sometimes my throat or my heart, depending on what I'm dealing with that day. And then usually at night I diffuse. And I often diffuse during the day too, but these are kind of, no matter what else happens, these are things that happen. And then at night, I will apply. I usually try to do something that's going to help me do some dream work, help support like the subconscious and the work and mental and emotional work before I go to bed. But yeah, so people, frankincense, if you can get it, get a good brand, but frankincense it's again, you can use it for physical things, mental things, emotional things, spiritual things. It's so much a part of my spiritual practice. I don't know if in my room, when you come in, I have that little floor altar. I always have like a little bottle of frankincense on it.
And I love to, sometimes whenever I come over, you'll share with me, or I'll say like, oh, it smells so good in here. And you have I can see it right now. It's behind you, your diffuser going. And sometimes you'll pick oils to support whatever it is that we're talking about that day on the podcast.
It's just for me, it just makes my life a little bit better, a little bit sweeter, a little bit nicer, a little bit easier. To just, it just helps me be a better me.
I love it too, because regardless of if it's every person's calling, it's something that you bring that enriches my life, where it's not where I put my energy, at least not the level that you do. And I love that I don't have to be this is like a somewhat new realization in my life, that I've been working with for the past few years, is like, I don't have to be or know or do everything. I can just surround myself with people who are amazing in whatever way is they're called for, and they can bring that into my life. And so I love that this is something that you enrich my life in so many ways, but I love that this is something that you bring to me, and I'm better for it. Magically, health-wise, personal wise, like you just, it enriches my life in a lot of ways.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I think that they're incredibly powerful, and my goal is that there should be a bottle of essential oil in everybody's house. So that's my mission.
Well, and I hope our listeners feel it too, that even if this isn't their calling, or maybe it is, maybe this will help them find a place to start, or at least know what to ask for if they have a friend that this is something that they do, or if they don't have a friend and they have a grocery store and they're looking for something. Like, hopefully this will act as that bridge that makes it accessible and not so overwhelming.
Yeah. There's so much information out there on the internet. Every time I was skiing and I have one of those backpacks that had the name on, and this one was like, oh yeah, I have some too. And, there's people out there who are so willing to talk about this. This is one of those things where it's so, regardless of, I don't know, whether you're a tree hugger or, I mean, the people who are into this are really diverse and really varied, and they're in there for a number of different reasons. And so you'll find people out there who are really willing to talk about it and to help you with this. So the poem that we're going to read is a text, I believe, for a song written by the 12th century nun, Hildegard of Bingen. And she was an amazing, amazing woman. She was one of the earliest known composers. So a person whose name is associated with their music. She's also a woman, and one of the few women who are credited with musical compositions that early in our history. But she was a botanist. She corresponded with popes and discussed theology. She was a scientist. She published tons of different areas, and she was also a musician. Amazing, amazing Renaissance woman, Hildegard of Bingen.
Witchy waff.
Exactly. Waff. Right. She was. I mean, people still talk about her herbology stuff. I mean, this is totally, she's a wise woman. She's a wise woman.
Wise woman.
A really wise woman. Okay. The earth is at the same time mother. She is mother of all that is natural, mother of all that is human. She is the mother of all, for contained in her are the seeds of all.
The earth of humankind contains all moistness, all verdancy, all germinating power.
It is in so many ways fruitful.
All creation comes from it.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!